Today we're exploring one of the most beautiful and mysterious visions Saint Francis of Assisi ever experienced. A vision that changed the way he saw creation itself. If you've been following these stories, you know that Francis is famous for preaching to birds, for calling animals his brothers and sisters, for seeing the fingerprint of God in every living thing. But what most people don't know is why. What did Francis see that made him look at a sparrow or a wolf or even a worm with such profound reverence? He saw something the rest of us miss. He saw the angels.
Not just the angels who attend to human souls. Francis saw the angels who guard every creature. The hidden watchers placed by God over the smallest, most forgotten parts of creation. And once he saw them, he could never look at the world the same way again. The vision happened during one of Francis's long periods of prayer in the mountains near Assisi. He had gone to a remote cave to fast and seek God's presence away from the noise of the town. He spent days in silence, praying, weeping, asking God to show him how to love more deeply. He wanted to see the world the way God sees it, to understand creation the way the Creator understands it. And God answered that prayer in a way Francis never expected.
It was early morning. The sun had just begun to rise, painting the sky in shades of gold and rose. Francis stepped outside the cave to breathe in the mountain air, and that's when it happened. The world around him suddenly shifted, not physically but spiritually. It was as if a veil had been lifted from his eyes. He saw the forest, the rocks, the birds in the trees. But now he saw something else, something moving among them, figures of light, beings so radiant and so gentle that Francis fell to his knees in awe. They were angels, but not the towering, fearsome angels of judgment he had heard about in sermons. These were different, smaller, quieter, almost tender in their presence. And each one was standing beside a creature. One angel hovered near a sparrow perched on a branch. Another knelt beside a rabbit nibbling grass in a clearing. A third moved with a deer as it walked through the forest. Francis looked around, his heart pounding, and realized with overwhelming clarity that every living thing had a guardian. Every creature, no matter how small, was attended by an angel of God. Francis later told his brothers that he wept uncontrollably when he understood what he was seeing. He said, "I thought only humans had angels. I thought only we mattered to God. But I was wrong. He cares for the sparrow. He watches over the lamb. He guards the butterfly. Nothing is forgotten. Nothing is unloved." The vision continued. Francis watched as one of the angels, radiant and calm, stood beside a small bird that had fallen from its nest. The bird was injured, struggling to move. Francis wanted to rush forward and help, but something held him back. He watched as the angel bent down, not touching the bird physically, but surrounding it with light. The light was soft, like a blanket, like a whisper. And within that light, Francis saw something extraordinary. The bird's suffering was not erased, but it was held. The angel wasn't healing the bird. The angel was comforting it, staying with it, making sure it did not suffer alone. Francis understood then that God's care for creation is not always about preventing pain. Sometimes it's about presence. The angel didn't take the bird's struggle away, but the bird was not abandoned. It was loved. It was seen. And that, Francis realized, is what every creature receives from God, the assurance that they are not alone in their suffering. Then Francis noticed something else. The angels were not passive. They were active, watchful, protective. He saw an angel gently guide a young fox away from a trap hidden in the underbrush. Another angel moved alongside a stream, standing guard over a family of frogs as a hawk circled above. The angels didn't interfere with the natural order. The hawk still needed to hunt. The fox still needed to learn caution. But the angels were there, shepherding, guiding, protecting, where God's providence allowed. Francis later described it like this: "The angels do not control nature, but they serve it. They are the Father's love made visible in the care of his smallest children." He said that every time a bird finds food, every time a deer escapes danger, every time a creature survives against the odds, an angel has been at work. Not violating freedom, not overriding the laws of nature, but acting within God's mysterious will to ensure that nothing is lost that shouldn't be lost. The vision deepened. Francis saw an angel standing beside a wolf, one of the creatures most feared by the people of his time. The wolf was thin, scarred, wary. It had been hurt by humans, chased, hunted, hated. But the angel stood beside it with the same tenderness Francis had seen with the sparrow. The angel's presence seemed to say, "You too are loved. You too are seen. You too have a place in the Father's heart." Francis felt his own heart break open. He realized that his fear of certain animals, his discomfort with creatures he considered dangerous or ugly, was a failure to see what God sees. God doesn't rank his creation. He doesn't love the lamb more than the wolf, the dove more than the raven. Every creature, Francis saw, is a beloved child. Every creature has an angel, because every creature matters to God. Then Francis heard a voice. It wasn't audible, but it filled his entire being. The voice said, "Francis, if I care for the sparrow, how much more do I care for you? And if I have given angels to the least of my creatures, how much more have I given to those made in my image?" Francis wept again, but this time with gratitude. He understood that the angels who guard creation are a sign of God's infinite attention. If God notices when a sparrow falls, then nothing in all of creation escapes his gaze. Nothing is too small. Nothing is too insignificant. Nothing is unloved. The vision continued for what felt like hours, though Francis later said he couldn't tell if it was moments or days. He saw angels tending to creatures in every part of the forest. He saw an angel guiding a lost lamb back to its flock. He saw another angel protecting a nest of eggs from a storm, its wings spread like a shelter. He saw angels accompanying creatures in their final moments, standing beside them as they died, just as they had stood beside them in life. That image struck Francis with particular force. He saw a small bird take its last breath beneath a tree. Its body grew still, but the angel didn't leave. The angel remained, holding the bird's spirit gently as it passed from this world to whatever mystery God has prepared for his creatures. Francis didn't fully understand what he was seeing, but he knew it was sacred. He knew that death, even for the smallest creature, is not abandonment. It is transition. And the angels are there to make sure no creature crosses that threshold alone.
Francis later taught that this is why we must treat animals with reverence, not because they are human, but because they are gods. He would say, "When you harm a creature, you grieve its angel. When you show kindness to an animal, you honor the one who guards it." He believed that every act of cruelty toward creation is a wound in the fabric of God's love, and every act of compassion is a participation in the work of the angels. There's a story that became famous after this vision. Francis was traveling through a town where the people were terrorized by a wolf. The wolf had killed livestock and even attacked people. The townspeople wanted to hunt it down and kill it, but Francis insisted on meeting the wolf himself. When he found it, he didn't see a monster. He saw a creature attended by an angel. He spoke to the wolf gently, calling it Brother Wolf, and made a pact with it. The wolf would stop attacking, and the people would feed it. And the wolf agreed. It lived peacefully among the people until its death. Francis's brothers asked him later how he knew the wolf would listen. He answered simply, "Because I saw his angel, and the angel told me the wolf was not evil. He was hungry and afraid. When you see a creature's angel, you see its soul. And when you see its soul, you cannot hate it." This vision also changed the way Francis understood his own calling. He realized that caring for creation was not separate from caring for souls. It was all one work. God's love extends to everything he has made. And Francis, as a servant of that love, was called to protect, honor, and cherish all of it. He began speaking out against cruelty to animals. He would buy trapped birds and set them free. He would carry worms off the road so they wouldn't be crushed. His brothers sometimes thought he was excessive, but Francis would say, "If I pass by a creature in need and do nothing, I have ignored the work of its angels." He also taught that the angels who guard creation are constantly giving praise to God. He said, "Every angel sings, and the song they sing is the beauty of the creature they protect. When you see a bird in flight, you're hearing the song of its angel. When you see a flower bloom, you're witnessing the praise of its guardian." For Francis, all of creation was a choir, and the angels were the unseen voices lifting every living thing into a hymn of thanksgiving. In his later years, when Francis's body was failing and he could barely walk, he still insisted on treating every creature with gentleness. He would ask his brothers to leave out food for the birds in winter. He would speak to the trees and thank them for their shade. He would greet animals by name, calling them brother and sister, because he knew they were more than flesh and instinct. They were loved by God. They were guarded by angels. They were part of the same family. One of his last teachings on this subject was recorded by Brother Leo, his closest companion. Francis said, "When you stand before God, He will not only ask how you treated people, He will ask how you treated His creation.
because every creature you meet is a test. Will you see only matter, or will you see mystery? Will you see only an animal, or will you see the angel standing beside it? Francis also warned against the sin of indifference. He said that the opposite of love is not hate, it is apathy. When we look at creation and feel nothing, when we harm animals without thought, when we destroy the earth without conscience, we are not just sinning against nature, we are sinning against the angels who guard it. We are telling God that His care doesn't matter, that His attention is wasted, that His love is unnecessary. But Francis also spoke of hope. He said that it's never too late to change the way we see. He said, "Ask God to open your eyes the way He opened mine. Ask to see the angels, and when you see them, you will never be cruel again. You will never be careless again. You will walk through the world with reverence, knowing that everything around you is sacred." Near the end of his life, Francis returned to the same mountain where he had first seen the angels who guard every creature. He was sick, nearly blind, his body broken by years of penance. But he wanted to go back to that place one more time. His brothers carried him to the cave, and he sat outside in the early morning light, just as he had years before. And according to Brother Leo, who was with him, Francis smiled. He looked out at the forest, at the birds, at the sunlight filtering through the trees, and he whispered, "I see them. I still see them. The angels are here. They have always been here, and they will be here long after I am gone." Then he added something that Brother Leo never forgot. "Do not mourn for creation. It is not abandoned. Every sparrow, every lamb, every creature that crawls or flies or swims is held in the hands of God through His angels. The earth is not alone. It is loved. And one day, when all things are made new, the angels will present every creature back to the Father, and He will say, "Well done. You have kept what I entrusted to you." Saint Francis of Assisi saw what most of us cannot see. He saw the invisible guardians placed by God over every living thing. He saw the tenderness, the care, the unceasing attention that flows from the heart of the Creator to the smallest sparrow, the loneliest wolf, the forgotten worm on the road. And he spent the rest of his life trying to teach the world what he had learned: that nothing is unloved, nothing is forgotten, nothing is outside the reach of God's mercy. Because if every creature has an angel, then creation itself is a sanctuary, and we who walk through it are not masters, we are guests, and the angels are watching to see how we treat the Father's beloved children.